Hey everybody, this is Heidi Bushback from St. Paul, Minnesota, and you're listening to the Chartlotte Mason in the City podcast, the show that discusses how we practice Charlotte Mason in the city. But not only that, we also bring Charlotte Mason's life-giving principles to the people of the city, both young and old, and we hope that you'll enjoy our podcast today. So this is just an example, I guess, of a way that we do Charlotte Mason in the city. We do Charlotte Mason in the city with music making. So when we do Charlotte Mason, handicrafts is a really big deal. And so for one of my daughters, she's making a sculpture for a college class. And this is just another way, if you watch the video of this, that you can see that we're implementing Charlotte Mason in the city. So just wanted to share some ways, since I was talking about how Charlotte Mason teaches us how to live. I know audio can be sketchy with a podcast, so hopefully this might be working, won't be too much background noise. But anyway, one of the benefits of some of the other things I do, I make communion bread for my church. And one of the benefits of doing that is that we always get to use the leftover dough to make cinnamon rolls. But just to share a little bit as I work, one of the things that I feel like Charlotte Mason has taught me, and one of the ways that I've learned how to live, is to give myself the permission to pursue the things that I love to do, even in the midst of our homeschooling. And so, so here, I'm making cinnamon rolls for my family. They're yummy. They're good. I use some of the bread to serve my church. I grew up baking with my mom, and so I, of course, already knew how to do some of these skills, but what Charlotte Mason has brought to me is, as an educator, she lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and she was passionate about education for children, but she also was passionate about mothers, having mother culture. And she talks about mother culture being something where mothers learn and mothers pursue their interests, and mothers gain wisdom about educating their children and all of those things. And so what I love about her as a woman at the turn of the century is that she was supportive of women living into their full potential as a human being, but in a really Christ-centered way, where they were there to support others and support their children and support their families and to teach their children, but to also learn themselves and to keep their minds keen and sharp. And so I've had a lot of chronic health issues, so I'm putting, if you could see this, I'm putting cinnamon and brown sugar, but some stevia. I follow Trim Healthy Mama some, and so I'm trying to make these cinnamon rolls healthier, both to strengthen my body, but I try to learn about health. That's one of the things that I find interesting, is science and health and metabolism and diet, but then I love to bake. So anyway, that's one thing I do. I have backyard chickens. I've always wanted to be on a farm, and maybe someday we'll have a hobby farm and I'll run a Charlotte Mason school on a farm. Until that day, until the Lord brings us out of the city, we're here. And if I did have a school on a farm, I would have it with inner city kids. I had the opportunity to work at Hope Farm School, which is connected to Hope Academy in Minneapolis. And they have inner city boys travel to the countryside in Wisconsin and learn about farming and move grass-fed cattle. And they do all of that in their education there. And it's really an inspiration. I was a substitute teacher there for a semester 2 years ago, and that's what has continued to inspire me to want to start my inner city school. And so another thing that I well, we've had our chickens for about 4 years now. So my daughter, who was making the sculpture in the video earlier, she really likes animals, and she was able to hatch chickens earlier this year for some friends. And then we have an incubator, and we do that in the city. And then we work with our church, and our church is doing a church plant, and so we try to do music for that. And we have a dog, and I let my kids buy little pets. So one of my daughters has a hamster, and another has a fish tank that she's responsible for. And my oldest daughter is actually studying to be an elementary education major, but she's been able to go to Covenant University in Covenant College, in Lookout Mountain, Georgia. And Dr. Jack Beckman is her professor. It's one of his last years teaching, but he has started Chartlotte Mason schools and written many Chartlotte Mason books, and edited those. And it's been a privilege to watch her learn under his tutelage. I think she's very excited about educational philosophy, and I plan to have her as a guest soon on the podcast. But what I also want to do on this podcast is interview my friends that live in the city. I have 4 to 6 single moms who live here that I've hosted their children for a ministry called Together for Good. And when the moms need support, we host the children. Another thing that we've done is a temporary foster. We were foster parents, emergency foster parents for a family, and that mom was able to join my church, and so we still have a relationship with her. I would like to interview her someday. I have a friend who grew up in this city, and she has been through some hard things, and in the process of that, she's met lots of people out on the street in our community, and she has a lot of things she's learned and has to offer, and I hope to have her as a guest. But as well as those friends of mine that are women that I actually have inspired me. They love their children so much, but they could never homeschool. But what I want is to provide some sort of community for them where someday maybe they could, or maybe they could learn some of Charlotte Mason's principles for themselves, where they can come and learn how to live, and they can find joy in reading, and joy in music, and joy in art. And so this is kind of my opportunity to share with, if you're watching the video, here's my cinnamon rolls. So we're going to let these rise. My cinnamon rolls, let them rise for about 20-30 minutes. It's kind of cold here in Minnesota right now. Very cold, actually. So this will take a while, but then after they rise, I'll bake them for about 25 minutes, and we get to have these for breakfast on Sunday morning before church, because I made communion bread, so we had extra dough. Another thing that I've done, I think that Mason has helped me with, is to just rejoice in the music education that I had as a college student. I was a music ed major, and I've been able to use those skills then to help other families in the community by starting my Miss Mason's music website. And that has allowed me to share my love of music with other Charlotte Mason homeschool families. And so currently we're working on updating some of those videos. And so my kids and I here in the city, we have a music room, and I'll just switch my camera. We're using our whiteboard to make solfa videos, and had our whole setup. But this is my music room with our instruments and our piano, and the trombone from the neighbor guy, and my son's drums, and our music books, and our drums, and all that. But anyway, that is something else that I have tried to pursue as a Charlotte Mason homeschool mom, where I have felt the freedom to share what I've learned with others and encourage them to teach their children music, and to study all the ways that Mason did music education through solfa and folk dancing and piano instruction, as well as as composer study and music appreciation, and there's my music appreciation books back there on the shelf. So anyway, I really just hope that this podcast and this video blog or video podcast will be an encouragement to people to not feel like you have to live in some perfect nature sanctuary to do nature study. We'll hopefully share ways we do homeschooling on these videos and on the podcast, but also talk to people who can inspire us and help us think about ways we can share Charlotte Mason in the city with other people in need, but also how we can be a faithful Charlotte Mason educator in the city. I think those things can go together nicely. I hope to interview people like Nancy Kelly and Art Middlecoff and other Charlotte Mason friends that I have as well, to bring their knowledge and insight and to ask them, how has Charlotte Mason taught you how to live and to have a more full and abundant life, but also where do they see themselves being able to implement Charlotte Mason in their community, maybe if they live in the city or in a small town, so that we can be thinking about how we use this love of knowledge and love of Christ to bless others. Another way that Charlotte Mason has taught me how to live is to have a keen appreciation of nature and of God's creation. And as you can see, well, these are my herbs from my garden, and I brought them in. But I have sage and some marjoram or some other things like that, as well as my house plants. I'm so excited that my Christmas cactus is blooming. It doesn't always bloom, but it's just gotten some, I think, good winter light and cold, and it kind of kicked it into high gear. I have a lemon and a lime tree that I'm growing. They've lost all their leaves because I think it's so cold, but I have a lemon growing on my tree and my fig there, and we like to display our art prints on an easel in our home, and we can rotate them throughout the term. Ooh, he's upside down, but I've got my Malay pictures as well as others, and so we can rotate. There's an Audubon bird, and so we like to grow plants in our home. My cactus is all the things that I moved in for the winter, but I have just so loved to focus in on how things grow as I grow my own garden as a mom, but also how I teach my children that. And so we can use simple things like this, like my sage that I brought in from outside. Some of it's dead, some of it's alive. It's growing in an interesting way, but to be able to take a leaf and to paint it and to do brush drawing with the things that we have inside of our home. And that really helps our children see that we love to learn and that we love God's creation and that we can find beauty even when we live in a city where we have a lot of trash on our streets and a lot of homelessness around us and a lot of poverty and drug addiction and things that we see. We found heroin needles in our garden plot, that we have a community garden, and there were needles in our plot during COVID because people were camping in the garden, our community garden. And so those are some things that we navigate in the city and we talk about as a family, and we pray about for the people who are suffering in our community. So I hope that you'll join me on this adventure of making Charlotte Mason in the city and this podcast, that you'll look forward to listening to our guests. And I hope to interview some of my inner city farm students. We did Charlotte Mason in their classroom there and talk about Charlotte Mason with them and what they've learned. I hope to bring my kids on and make videos, but also to have something people can listen to that's inspiring. If they can't watch, we'll hope to post videos on YouTube and also the audio on a podcast. And so anyway, if you want to learn more about Charlotte Mason and music education, you can check out my website at missmasonsmusic.com, or you can join our Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group of the same name, Miss Mason's Music, And so music is one of my passions, but so are city children and city moms. And I love to imagine how we can bring the joy of Charlotte Mason to those in need. So if you're interested in that, I hope you'll listen and come along on this storytelling adventure with me. And I hope to share lots of fun and inspiring things.